You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Alright, I'm informed that the audio is not working again properly, so I just want to make a message here before we get on with things, that this is Hurricane Hilary, headed towards the Baja California peninsula and beyond, and we are streaming on multiple platforms, but we'll have to pull the plug on most of them because we had this issue at the weekend and it's happened again. I don't know why, but we'll fix it at some point. So, for all who are watching on all of our other platforms, please switch to YouTube, because that's where you'll have the stream. Alright, I think we're back. So, yeah, I don't know what goes on. What happens is we have a multi-stream that we've started to work with, and it worked on when we're simulcasting to Facebook and Twitter, and for some reason YouTube's just not having it at the minute. I don't know why. But there we go. Not the start we're hoping for, but we absolutely mean business here because we have a very powerful hurricane active right now in the form of Hilary. We're still sorting a few things out here as well because there's so many things. But let's pop into the studio. My name is Nathan Foy here right now, and we've got huge amounts of things to talk about with regards to this storm, which you just saw on that satellite imagery, still with a very fantastic looking eye, and obviously a real danger to the coast of Baja California first of all, which is under a hurricane warning, and then further towards the north. And of course I think it's been well publicized that this is the first warning that's been issued, watch I should say, that's been issued for California in the National Hurricane Center era. Of course, two storms in the past, the very distant past, have been recorded as striking California, but here we are today with the first National Hurricane Center warning. I keep saying warning, it's still a watch, tropical storm watch up there in California, but warnings further south for large parts of the coast of Mexico, not just the Baja California peninsula, but also further along onto the mainland. My name is Nathan Foy. I'm joined by a rather proficient team who will be discussing this storm. We expect to be on the air here for 2 hours this evening to really get into the nuts and bolts of how this storm came to be, what's going to happen next, and what you should do about it if you are on the ground. I'm joined by Charlie, Cesar, Chris, Corgi, Farhan, Patrick, Samuel, and Seek. I think, first of all, we'll talk to Cesar about this, because you are in Mexico, although not this part of Mexico that we're talking about. You're on the other side, the Atlantic side. I wonder what your thoughts are on Hilary as we look at it right now. Still a Category 4.
Yeah, Nathan, good evening, and good evening, everyone. Absolutely monstrous cyclone, really big as well. It's a really broad system. It has intensified really quickly. Actually, has weakened a little bit, but still a Category 4. So, of course, it's a really dangerous situation for the Baja California Peninsula, both states, Baja California Sur and Baja California. It's not expected to make landfall in the southern state anymore, but still a direct landfall is expected in the northern side, practically in the city of Ensenada, in the northern part of Baja California. So it is, yeah, it's really an interesting hurricane because it's something like usually doesn't happen quite a lot. Actually, it's really rare to see a tropical cyclone making land that north and still being tropical and then getting into the state of California in the United States. So that's practically history in the make, if we can say that, of course.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a really interesting hurricane, Nathan.
Just been messing with some of the graphics there, try and make things better. There's the view, part of the view there that we're snatching from the Force 13 automated stream that's currently active as well. So when we're not live streaming, you'll be able to take a look at that and see the storm in real time. That's slightly old advisory on that as well. It is now down to 130 miles per hour. Rather than 140, but it's still a Category 4 at this point, and still looking good when you look at that satellite imagery infrared there. You can see a decent ring around the eye, and there was a recon in the storm earlier today. Does anyone want to tell us about what they found?
If I can recall correctly, Nathan, I believe that NOAA Recon has not found indications. I believe, from what I can recall, NOAA Recon was able to indicate that there was no evidence of an eyewall replacement cycle at the time of their flight, given the fact that we didn't see any double maximum winds being flagged, especially when we're taking into account MSFRs or flight level winds. At some points, I believe they found 96 knot flight level winds in the northeastern quadrant, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure on what Recon has specifically found, but I do know that they did find evidence of 96 knot flight level winds, and I believe somewhere around 80 to 85 knot SFMRs. I don't know the rest of the data, though. However, I believe they did hit a drop zone somewhere in the 940s to 950s.
Yep.
So if I recall correctly,
I think they got a 947 if I saw it right.
Taking into account that, blending that with the SFMRs and flight level winds, I believe they would have a consensus for 110, 115 knots, I believe.
That sounds around right.
They are running with 115 knots right now, which would obviously mean Category 4, powerful, dangerous hurricane. So, yeah, pretty much still a powerful storm, and especially for those on the Baja California Peninsula as well as the southwest United States, you guys definitely need to be ready for this storm, as impacts are going to be beginning pretty much over the next 24 to 36 hours.
Let's go over the current watches and warnings right now, and these are locations that here at Force 13 and anywhere in the tropical world we're not as familiar with. These locations now up into the northern part of Baja California. We'll do our best with it. A hurricane warning for the peninsula from Punta Abriojo to Cabo San Quentin. Quintin, I should say. Hurricane watch for the Baja California Peninsula north of Cabo San Quentin to Ensenada. A tropical storm warning for the Baja California Peninsula from Punta Abriojo southward, all the way round the peninsula and round all the way up the east coast of the Baja California Peninsula, round that inlet in the Gulf of California where it meets the Colorado River, and then downwards along the mainland to Guaymas, I think it is. Is that right, Cesar? Guaymas? I'm not sure.
Guaymas. It's called Guaymas. It is.
And a tropical storm watch, of course, which is most well known to Californians right now because they're in it. Mainland Mexico from Huatabampo to Guaymas. Baja California north from Ensenada to the California-Mexico border, and then onwards to Point Mugu and Catalina Island. So that, of course, includes San Diego and Los
Also,
Angeles in
you
that
want
watch.
Also want to point out here real quick, Nathan, that this does include the entirety of Southern California, especially Los Angeles, San Diego, Imperial, Riverside, also goes up towards San Bernardino. This does not currently include portions, if I recall correctly, this does not include Arizona or Nevada.
No.
I think it's going to be mainly a more westward trek. However, impacts will likely be felt across both three states in terms of heavy rain as well as flooding, which we'll get into here later on in the live coverage here. However, Tropical Storm Watch, like you said there, Nathan, is the first ever in modern history for the NWS offices down in Southern California to actually issue a tropical storm watch in coordinates with the National Hurricane Center. So this is a exceptionally rare event for this area for this time of year. So yeah, definitely a dangerous situation setting up for not just California, not just the Baja California Peninsula, but maybe the entirety of the Southwest United States, specifically across California, Arizona, and Nevada for the more long-range future of this very powerful storm.
Well, yeah, we're talking rainfall as well, and that's something I think you've been eyeing up quite a bit. The rainfall amounts aren't, when you look into tropical terms, they're not the highest ever when we look at tropical cyclone forecasts, but for these areas that, they're quite susceptible, really, very dry areas. What's the deal right now?
Yes, um so basically the Weather Prediction Center right now currently has 3 individual risk areas that they have highlighted. Today pretty much begins. We have a slight risk out for portions of the desert Southwest stretching back towards portions of California and Arizona. I'll actually pull up the own map here real quick just so I can get a little bit of a more view of my own. And yes, so we do have a slight risk out currently right now. This is a slight risk for excessive rainfall, which is basically equivalent to your typical United States severe weather slight risk. This encompasses a large chunk of northwestern Arizona, far southeastern California, southern Nevada into southwest Utah. That is in association with Hilary. In addition to this, we also have a moderate risk for the far southwest or far southeastern bit of the state of California and does extend into portions of Tijuana and Baja California. However, the main key deal we are going to be dealing with right now, and the most dangerous of them all, is going to be not just a single, but a bimodal high risk, which is pretty much the highest risk that the Storm Predictions or Weather Prediction Center can actually issue for excessive rainfall events and significant flooding. So basically, this encompasses pretty much an area from west of Imperial up towards areas west of San Diego and Los Angeles, and also includes Death Valley. The moderate risk extends pretty much across a large chunk of SoCal into far western Arizona and southern Nevada, including Los Angeles, Las Vegas, as well as La Paz and Lake Havasu City. Now, basically, what a double high risk means is pretty much if you are within these rural badlands, pretty much, and you are along the far southern California region, basically right at the California-Mexico border, pretty much what this is saying is that there's going to be a likelihood, or actually I think it's pretty much guaranteed given the conditions that are really setting up here, the potential for life-threatening catastrophic flooding. Life-threatening catastrophic flooding is possible, actually is likely across Southern California, Western Arizona, and Southern Nevada, pretty much across a large chunk of the Southwest United States, as we have a lot of moisture, basically a lot of moisture surging northward, and Hilary is basically going to be bringing more moisture, basically overspreading some tropical monsoonal moisture up northward. And basically what this means is that due to Hilary, directly and indirectly, a lot of rain is going to fall, and given the fact that we have a lot of moisture in place, it's going to contribute to a lot of excessive runoff, especially across highest elevations. So landslides are definitely a likely possibility. So this could be a potentially life-threatening situation that may materialize across the Southwest United States, and anybody in Southern California, especially north of the California-Mexico border, even if you're in Baja California, the far northern peninsula, mainland, Mexico on the northwest side, basically going to the U.S. Mexico border, needs to be on the watch out for this flooding event. The main key thing you want to do is to get to higher ground and get to the most highest point of your structure. It has to be a sturdy structure, but you need to be at the highest point that you can be at, as this flooding event, Nathan, could be quite a significant one for a large, and I mean large, area stretching from basically the northern Baja California peninsula, pretty much stretching across a large swath of the inland southwest United States going into the weekend.
And with this in mind, I do want to actually go over some safety precautions related to this exceptional flooding event, especially for
Sam?
those who are in California right now.
I don't know if it's possible if you could just get a little bit closer to the microphone there. You're a little bit low.
Okay, is this better?
Yep.
Okay, so I do want to bring out some pointers for flood. So ways that you can prepare for a flood is you want to know how susceptible your area is to flooding, especially for those who are in California, as the way that the environment is not very well established, very well adapted to collecting rainwater or endure major floods. So if you are so for those in this area in these areas, especially in Southern California and even going up into Nevada, you will want to keep an eye on these risks. You will also want to have an emergency evacuation plan in place, especially if your area is very susceptible to flash flooding. You want to make sure that you have flood insurance handy. You want to have important documents stored away in waterproof containers, and you want to also make sure that you are protecting your property, that you are in an area that you are going to be in an area that is much more difficult for floodwaters to reach, and depending and during these flood events, you want to make sure that you're staying up to date on any evacuation orders that you get, or any major alerts such as flash flood warnings, and especially flash flood emergencies. I am sure that we are going to be seeing some widespread considerable flash flooding or flash flood emergency alerts out for these areas. So it is important that you heed these. Even regular flash floodings, you need to be heeding with the utmost urgency and caution here. You
Yes.
want to make sure that you are not driving. If you are driving, especially if you're trying to escape floodwaters, you need to make sure that you are not getting near any large areas with large puddles, or any areas of rushing water, as those places are extremely dangerous, and can easily lead to yourself and or your vehicle being swept away, and it will make it harder for emergency crews uh, to reach you. So you want to make sure that after these flood warnings, after the flooding events, you want to make sure that it is safe to return, as some of these areas can be uninhabitable due to excessive floodwater in the area. So, especially given that this could be a historic flooding event, even going up into the mountains. So, you need to make sure that you are heeding all watches and warnings. If you are in an area stretching from the Southern California, LA area, and San Diego, going down into the northwestern Baja California Peninsula, um, parts of western and southwestern Arizona, and going all the way up into the Las Vegas area, and going all the way up into potentially into parts of Central California, towards the Bay Area. You need to be on alert, not just for strong winds, but it is going to be flooding. Heavy rain and flooding that is going to be the main threats. I do not expect that we'll be seeing any storm surge threats from this system. However, it is absolutely crucial that you do not discount the flooding threat.
Thank you for that. Well, we also got Corgi with us right now, who is in California. I can't remember exactly where. I'm sure you'll tell me.
Yes.
I just want to have your thoughts on, first of all, the storm and what things are like in your area, the attitudes and how people are preparing.
Well, thank you, Nathan. I would just like to say that California itself has not experienced tropical storm force winds like this in over 80 years, the last storm being in 1939. And so, of course, a lot of people have forgotten about the possibility of a tropical storm affecting California. But um, due to the ever so present drought, even though, we had a major flooding event which happened this winter, we are still considering we're still considered to be in a drought as of now, and so um, the the soil and the ground itself isn't as well adapted to soak up enough water for it to handle all of this, which will make the flooding conditions even worse, as many people aren't aware of the catastrophic impacts that flooding could bring to the California area. Overall, the attitude, around here, at my high school, only one of my teachers has actually talked about the storm at all, like even just mentioned it. The rest of them haven't even, talked about it, and I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the storm and schools. There could be school closures if, the weather becomes severe enough, which is becoming more likely with how Hilary is likely to dump large amounts of rain on Southern California, which could extend into the Central Valley and even Nevada or Arizona, and could give record-breaking flooding into this area, which already experienced some rainfall records from this winter, which has reminded the Californian people that they are not invincible to rainfall events such as this one, but still is going to be a major disaster for the area if things go as they're currently being forecasted to.
All right. We'll take comments and questions fairly soon as well. And I did see one comment that was talking about the island that's not far from the center of the storm right now, about 133 kilometers away. And I believe that is Socorro Island. Cesar, could you tell us a little bit more about that island there?
Well, yeah, Socorro here. Sorry, I had my mic off.
It's okay.
Excuse for that. Well, Socorro Island is a small island in the Pacific Ocean. It's not really populated. It's not a really populated area. It's only like 16 kilometers of diameter. Or something like that. I really don't remember the dimensions of the island, but it's really small. The population there is only about 45 to 50 people only. So it's not really an island where a lot of people are visiting or even living there. And they are right now experiencing hurricane force winds, or at least tropical storm force winds directly by the hurricane. It's located in the western side of the coast of Mexico, next to the state of Colima, which it's actually part of the state of Colima.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the island was visited quite a few times in the 50s by the Mexican army, but then since then has been just like for
Sure.
Garden Island, to be honest. So
Well,
not even.
It's quite popular with storms though as well, isn't it?
It's absolutely popular because a lot of hurricanes practically uh, go nearby the island or even over the island. But yeah, it's not a really populated region, and it's actually not. There's only green areas and natural stuff, but nothing like homes or any kind of buildings there. So
All right.
yeah, it's practically an inhabited island so far.
Thank you for that. We've also got Farhan with us right now as well. You're watching quite distantly from the other side of the world, but you have been a cyclone analyst with us for quite some time, and your thoughts on Hilary as it's unfolding today, still looking very good on that satellite imagery.
Well, from analyzing the storm as it is now, it is It is a very typical Eastern Pacific storm in terms of appearance and behavior. And I have to say, even though I don't particularly like into feeding into the fanboyism of a particular contributor here in the server, I do glad to see that the Eastern Pacific have been more active than the North Atlantic for once in like 8 years. But yeah, that's besides the point. Of course, the more pertinent aspect is Hillary's the storm's potential impact on land in several times, not only northern Baja California, which in itself is already quite unprecedented, but also southern California, of course. The last time a true tropical cyclone has made an impact to Southern California was all the way back to 1939, before World War II. And as was mentioned earlier, it is quite worrying how, um, due to this being the first case of this happening in 8 years, it's questionable how many people really took this seriously, and I really do hope people don't just look at the novelty factor. Oh, look at that! We're finally getting hit with a hurricane, just like Florida or uh, Texas and stuff. I
Sure.
do hope people in Southern
Yeah.
California overlook that novelty and took the risk seriously, because a storm coming into impact to an area that's not used to it could potentially be devastating. Now, of course, I'm not saying it's gonna be devastating as storms in area like India or the Philippines, but it could still potentially be quite destructive if uh, the authorities and ordinary citizens alike do not prepare adequately. So I really, really wish for the authorities and normal citizenry to took this seriously and like educate preparation within the next few days.
Uh,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
agree with you there. Oh, sorry. But I agree with you there. So far, I haven't like gotten any alerts on my phone about the storm yet, which even though we're under a tropical storm watch for the first time in history, which is a bit alarming to me as as I said, at first, I thought we were just going to get brushed like from the remnants of this storm, like we got with K last year, which did help put out some wildfires that were happening in California at the time. And and for me, honestly, all it did was just give us some very light rain, so nothing like to write home about. But with this storm, it's expected to actually be, a proper tropical storm by the time it reaches California, which, as said multiple times, is very rare. And so this, could definitely devastate areas of Southern California, with Death Valley expected to get its annual, almost non-existent dose of rain in just a day or two, which could definitely cause flooding in Death Valley and the areas around it, as they of course are not known for getting any rain, as they're basically your typical definition of a desert. So this could definitely be devastating for communities which are in the um, more rural parts of Eastern California in the east, such as the cities, or rather, towns of Baker and, if I'm correct, Blythe and Needles. Those three are in far east Southern California, which definitely could get huge amounts of rain from this storm. So pretty much everyone in Southern California, not just in the areas where it's expected to pass over, needs to take this storm seriously and start preparations, because heavy rain could cause, property damage and other forms of damages.
Looking at the various satellite products here on the Force 13 website, you can access this yourselves, by the way, by going on there, force13.com, and taking a look at the satellite section. It's got quite a few different views of the storm as it is right now. There's some infrared, clean infrared, showing that the eye might become a little bit more well-rounded on those latest images. Let's try the ramp enhancement, the Zaire enhancement, and it does look quite interesting. There's sort of like a double band there a little bit. Now, there's been big question marks actually about whether this has had an eyewall replacement cycle and what the status of it is/was. I don't know if any of you guys have any comment there as you watch that imagery right now, showing that there's a little sort of inner band there as well as an outer one. Is that a sign that an eyewall replacement cycle just happened?
Well, without seeing microwave imagery, I don't think I could really I don't think I or any of us could really comment on that. And I haven't actually been up to date with those, so yeah, no.
Let's click on some of the other things. Here's radar, by the way, but there isn't any yet. When it does get in range, that will show up. And here is sea surface temperatures around the storm. Oh, it doesn't want an animated version. There it is. So that's the latest, showing that the temperatures around Hilary right now are about, let's see, what is that? Just about 30 degrees Celsius actually for a little bit longer, but it will start to fall off a cliff there that you can quite clearly see. And I would say by 18 hours at most, it will be below 26 degrees Celsius. So that will eliminate any chances of any re-strengthening. But with the storm's appearance right now, guys, what do you think it's doing in terms of its intensity slope? Is it maintaining right now?
I mean, it very well could be.
I do believe so.
Yeah, I mean, it might be weakening just a tiny bit, although it, definitely could still be maintaining its intensity as it does have the necessary sea surface temperatures to continue.
Pardon me.
The slight weakening probably was some dry air intrusion, because there's practically low wind shear and the sea surface temperatures are really good so far. But still a really intense system. The ice still looking great. There's no evidence of an eyewall replacement cycle, as the recon said on its last mission. So practically the weakening trend that Hilary will start on the next hours will be solely by the decreasing temperatures of the sea.
And just in case you were wondering, as soon as we went to air, the National Hurricane Center published their 6 p.m. advisory, and the warnings we read out earlier were based on that. They hadn't changed from the 3 p.m. update, and they're still using Mountain Daylight Time, by the way. And that, just to read their headline, the outer bands from Hilary spreading onshore over the southern portions of Baja California. Life-threatening and potentially catastrophic flooding likely over much of Baja California and the southwestern United States this weekend and early next week. Just to reiterate that information. Just to read through some of their highest hazards right now, and actually just an interesting point that they put in their update as well. There is an automated weather station on Socorro Island, and they measured peak sustained winds of 47 miles per hour and a gust of 79, which I think is quite low actually, considering that it looked like it was in the eye wall. And the estimated pressure 948 according to them. Our estimate right now at 944, not much of a difference there. Nothing that's significant. So they're expecting to produce rainfall amounts of 3 to 6 inches, with isolated maximums of up to 10 inches across portions of the Baja California Peninsula through Sunday night. Flash and urban flooding, locally catastrophic, they say, will be possible, especially in the northern portions of the peninsula. For the southwestern U.S., yeah?
I do want to actually point out here really quickly that I do want to point out that I believe this is an association with Hilary. I'm not 100% sure if it is, but we do actually have now several flash flood warnings currently out across southeastern California. I believe this is an association due to Hilary advecting moisture pretty much due north. So this is basically what we've been talking about here. This moisture content that's basically spreading northward and causing those flash flooding conditions. I do want to point out here that the most significant one that is currently in effect,
a line of storms off the edge of Hilary.
Yep.
Yeah, I will point out one of them here real quick. I do want to point out here that we do have a flash flood warning for Las Vegas, Nevada, for Central Clark County until 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. They do state that this is a considerable life-threatening flash flooding threat. So if you are within Las Vegas, Spring Valley, Enterprise, I would definitely keep on the lookout for flash flooding tonight, as it appears that flash flooding, perhaps even significant flash flooding, is potentially beginning.
Well, there's some big thunderstorms that are blowing up there, and I would sort of say it's half due to the hurricane. I think it's just enhanced the conditions on the edge of it that's producing some of these storms, and you can see at least three clear systems there, and that massive one is actually starting to cover Phoenix, Arizona there as well. So interesting to see what happened with that, but certainly the potential is there for some really serious flash flooding events starting this evening.
I agree. Here in the Chino Valley area, we aren't getting any precipitation as of now. However, that could quickly change and is going to likely change. Weather forecasts, are showing that we're going to get some very heavy rain on Sunday and Monday. And as said earlier, school closures could definitely happen in South California. I don't have any word of those happening yet, although they could definitely happen if the weather does get severe enough around here.
Well, here's radar right now as we continue to look at that situation, and especially for Las Vegas, some significant rain showers in the immediate vicinity, and already one or two have trailed over the city itself there, so obviously something that needs to be watched very closely. And that extends way further south in all these little disorganized but certainly very torrential bouts of rain that's occurring over there. As for the Phoenix area, then, just on the edge of this big cell right now, and there's some more stuff coming in from the east as well there towards Tucson, and further towards the south as well. So a lot going on in this area here. So we'll keep up to date on that. We'll probably talk a lot more about that, particularly in the second hour, as we get some more of our US complement on board.
Hey Nathan, I do want to actually point out here something interesting that you may actually want to take a look at here. I'm looking at the latest infrared imagery scan, and I might be seeing the signs. I don't know if there is one, but there actually might be a re-intensification of the southern outer eye wall, and I think there might also be a vortical hot tower going up on the far southern side, just below the storm, and it looks like it's also getting a more asymmetrical structure with convection basically getting sheared off to the southeast side. So I don't know if this is a sign of intensification or a sign of it undergoing an eye. I don't think it's going underneath an eye wall replacement cycle. I don't know.
No.
Likely isn't, but I think there might be some slight hints to that this could be re-intensifying right now. I don't know if it is, but
making a go of it, and it's got about 12 hours here. As we were watching those images earlier on the Force 13 website, there they are again. You can see, I mean, if you can look at it from an objective point of view, it starts off without a fully fused red ring, and it ends with a fully fused red ring on that imagery. The eye temperature may have taken a slight hit though as a result, so I guess it's neither here nor there, and I would stick with 130 right now as it is.
I would definitely also stick with 130 miles per hour as well, but I also do want to bring up a question here that was brought up in the chat. This is courtesy of Manuel C, I believe, or someone by the name of Manuel is in our chat right now and is currently asking. He basically says, like, what are the tips for people who need to seek shelter from flash flooding in Las Vegas, given the fact that people in Las Vegas have actually never had to deal with this before? So if you are in Las Vegas, especially if you are near the confluence of the Colorado River, near the Hoover Dam, especially if you're located in Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada, pretty much just all of South Central Nevada, including Las Vegas proper. Highest elevation, you need to make sure that you're getting to the highest point inside a safe, secure, and sturdy structure. You want to remain in the central portion of that structure, high above ground to the point in which water is not going to actually rise, as it really only takes 6 inches of water to wash an entire car away, and it does only take 2 inches of water to drown an individual. So this is some pretty staggering stats that you need to take into mind, and you need to pretty much, the best course of action to seek higher ground is to basically once again just go to the highest most portion of an interior room. You don't have to necessarily, I would prefer you guys to be in the centralmost portion of that structure, but I do want to bring up one key tidbit. Given the fact that we're probably going to go over this here later on, but given the fact that there could also be a tornado threat, I will bring this up later in the second half for a brief moment, but there is going to be a tornado threat that could overspread across Southern California and the Las Vegas area from the from Hilary itself with the outer rain bands. So if you're underneath a flash flood warning and a tornado warning at the same time, you need to prioritize the tornado warning first and seek shelter immediately in an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building, hallway, bathroom, closet. If you got one, use blankets and pillows to protect yourself from flying debris. However, once the tornado warning expires, your next best course of action is to immediately go right back up to higher ground. It doesn't matter if it's a radar indicated tornado warning or confirmed tornado warning, given the fact that this environment, we typically look at this here with these tropical tornadoes. They do tend to spin quickly down and spin quickly back up. This is like we saw with the Ian 2022 as well as Ida 2021, which were both potent tornado outbreaks that did spawn from these tropical cyclones. While it's not going to be as ideal this time around, given the fact that this is all the way out in the Eastern Pacific Basin, if this was in the more Atlantic side of the basin or the Atlantic Basin, this would be more of a concern. Long range. However, still prepare for the potential of tropical tornadoes, but the main key feature is the main key threat is going to be landslides and significant to catastrophic flooding. And basically, we're going to reminisce in here. Higher ground, do not drown, and make sure do not drive in flooded areas where water covers the road. And like I said, once again, make sure to just seek higher ground and make sure that structure is sturdy enough to the point in which your structure may not be structurally compromised from rushing water.
You can see these small polygons here, sort of maroon color, quite thin. Those are the flash flood warnings that are currently in effect right now in the Las Vegas area. 2 of them marked considerable there. Let's get some comments though quickly. Hurricane Alex says, could the remnants of Hilary affect Washington State? I would say not. Any lightning flashes in the storm? I tried to get some lightning on the satellite, but either there isn't any or it's not showing up. I don't know which. Probably that it's just not showing up. March 3258 has become a Category 5 member on Force 13's memberships on YouTube, and we really appreciate your support.
Thank you.
And we can talk about that some other time, I guess, as well. And what is a tropical tornado? You mentioned that. I doubt it's much different to a typical tornado, just the circumstances that it forms.
Yeah, so basically what a tropical tornado is basically just a regular tornado. However, it's basically defined by a tropical air mass, which is basically just like moisture. Basically, it's going to be usually moisture that is evected northward in association with a tropical cyclone like Hilary. And given the fact that it is monsoon season here in the desert southwest and interior southwest, you're going to have a lot of moisture which is going to overlap. And also, there is also going to be a little bit of a weak jet stream that's also going to tap into this moisture, and basically anywhere where you're going to be having the moisture and shear interact with each other, and as long as you have enough thunderstorm energy, which is basically CAPE for short, you will be able to have tornadoes. Now, due to the fact that we have a lot of moisture and the air is very saturated from said moisture, these tornadoes are going to be typically weaker in nature, but they will be prolific if conditions do tap in correctly. There is some uncertainties regarding the overall tornado threat. However, basically what a tropical tornado is it's basically just a tornado that interacts with a lot of tropical monsoonal moisture. And basically, these are more weaker spin-up tornadoes, and they typically don't do a lot of considerable damage. However, they can cause damage in a blink of an eye, and they can spin rapidly back down and rapidly back up, just like we normally see with the U.S. severe weather events. So if you're underneath, there probably is going to be tornado risks issued for the day 2 outlook when they do come out at 0. I believe that's going to be 08 or no 0730Z. So once those outlooks do come out, basically if you're put underneath the
7
risk,
hours
just
from
make
now.
sure. Yeah, just make sure to keep the tornado safety precautions in mind. Lowest floor, interior portion of your safe room, basement if you have one, and regardless of what the designation is, basically just a tropical tornado is obviously just a tornado interacting with a more tropical air mass. These are typically weaker, but you have to prepare for the worst as seen with previous tornado outbreaks from tropical cyclones like Ida back in 2021, as well as Ian back in 2022. And Nathan, you may know this in particular, as I was actually on that stream. Some of these tornadoes can be significant if they do indeed tap into the right conditions. So prepare for the tornado threat, but I feel, given these uncertainties, just mainly focus on the flash flooding and landslide threat for the time being, but we'll keep you updated here from Force 13 on all aspects of this very powerful storm, including on the U.S. side of things with us here from Force 13 U.S.
I would like.
Sammy says, is it possible the coast of California gets some storm surge?
This is actually this is
Absolutely.
unlikely. I mean, this could happen, although I'm not too sure whether it'll be significant storm surge. The storm will mostly move inland, and so the coast will not be as affected, as it'll not make a direct landfall on the coast, as previously stated. However, the coast still could face high waves from this storm and the winds generated from the storm. So people at the beaches should definitely be aware of this storm, and high waves could also definitely be generated from this. Also, Patrick, I just would like to say that California is usually not in our monsoon season as of right now, and heavy rains during this time of year, August, September, October, July, most of summer and early autumn is actually quite unusual. So the regular monsoon season for California and the Pacific Southeast or Southwest or Pacific West rather is usually the winter month. But
yeah, it's pretty much just a lot of deep monsoonal moisture that's basically being affected. It's basically due to like some terrain influence as well as other things to take into account. Also, Nathan, I don't know if we have noted this, but I think our eye is, and I mean rapidly warming at this time, as evidenced by infrared and satellite. And I believe the eye temperature as of the latest right now is rapidly eclipsing the 12-degree mark Celsius. So I think we're going to have to keep an eye on that, as that could mean a sign of re-intensification, potentially.
I'm not seeing it yet, but it's not to say it isn't happening.
Well, I think I'm kind of late here.
Coming from the public server chat.
I think it was
Quite
warmer
difficult.
earlier, though. But it is warming. I can tell that right now on the very latest rapid scan. And here it is, actually. I can show you some once again, and really looking good there, with the red ring increasing once again, and the eye temperature definitely getting warmer there too. So,
alrighty, hello everyone.
Who's that? Is that Jonesy?
Yes, so
welcome aboard.
I was working with Art over the last few minutes. I don't know if we're doing a multi-hour TWB tonight. Are we doing a multi-hour TWB?
We're here for
or
the
just
2
1
hours
hour?
tonight.
2 hours.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead. You got some graphics to show us?
So obviously the 413 US channel is currently down. Obviously, there was a bit of a hack. We are probably going to work on a rebrand, whatever. But we're still doing graphics and whatnot for the social media and for the main. So obviously, there is a marginal risk here in the Southwest. On day 3, probably when day 4 moves into day 3, you'll see a marginal or slight risk as well. This is due to the part of this over here in California is going to be because of the bands of Hilary. But out here around the Vegas and Phoenix areas, this is going to be from the moisture from Hilary, not Hilary's bands itself. So Phoenix, Vegas, Glendale, and Henderson, as well as San Diego, all are the population centers that we have here in the marginal risk for severe weather on day 3, and it will be similar areas on day 4, which is going to be on Sunday into Monday. Hazards being a tornado or two are possible, which you don't really usually see tornadoes in this area of the country, but when you get remnant tropical cyclones, you can get that. Damaging wind gusts are possible as well. A 5% risk of that, 2% for tornado, if there is going to be whatever. Since this is coming tropical-wise, there is no hail threat that is expected with this. However, it is mentioned that there is a significant flash flooding that is anticipated from this. So we're going into the excessive rainfall outlook in the Southwest. This is ahead of Hilary. There's already moisture that's in this area. We have a slight risk here for Vegas and parts of the Four Corner region of flash flooding. And that is just going to be for tonight into tomorrow. There's also marginals in the Northeast and in Florida.
Now that was interesting, just what you were showing then about tonight.
What?
Just that
this is
some of these cells that are blowing up are on the well to the left of the area.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is and it's going to start to move east. So this is going to be that calm. This is going to be the storm before the storm, or calm before the storm. And then you'll see everything starts to shift once we get into the day on Saturday, going Saturday into Sunday. And this is where the red bars come out. We have a moderate risk of excessive rainfall for parts of California and Arizona, which include Yuma, Ehrenberg, Calexo, and Mesa Verde. It's very close to Phoenix, but it doesn't get to Phoenix, the slight risk. We have Vegas is in the slight risk. Parts of the San Bernardino Valley is in the slight risk. Marginal risk for LA and San Diego and all Orange County there in California, as this is going to be the moisture and the outer bands starting to get into there. And then Sunday is when we have Sunday to Monday is when we have it just absolutely arrive moisture-wise, as we have a high risk of excessive rainfall in effect for two areas actually in the Californias. There's one area over here. There's no population, thankfully, but this is in the lower Sierra Nevada mountain range, and this
also
one here,
Death Valley. Just want to point that out.
Well, the moderate has Death Valley.
I actually live in
Death
the high
Valley's
risk.
not on the high risk. The high risk includes Riverside, Palm Springs, Salton City, and San Bernardino, while the moderate risk includes the big population centers. So you're
I live in
Los Angeles, Anaheim, Death Valley, Las Vegas, Yuma, and San Diego. And then I guess the high risk does include Death Valley. I'm not sure. And then that slight risk goes as far north as Reno and well into Nevada. Portions of Death Valley are in the high risk. Other portions are in the moderate. So this is going to be a lot of flash flooding. So for the day 3, we said flash flooding is likely. Do not drive in flooded roads. Heavy rainfall may cause flash flooding in minutes. This one, where it's a high risk, flash flooding is expected. Don't drive in the flooded roads. Heavy rainfall can cause flash flooding in minutes to near seconds. So you definitely need to be prepared for this if you are in these areas on Sunday and into Monday. And on Monday, we have a giant slight risk, which does include the Los Angeles area. It does include near parts of Vis. And it looks like that moisture is just going all the way up into parts near Canada, but it might be it might be combining with something that's coming into the Pacific Northwest. So the moisture is going to be combining. San Francisco, you're going to get a marginal risk of excessive rainfall come Monday into Tuesday, and by then that's when the storm is going to be dissipated. And we do have one more to show. This is the tropical weather outlook.
Oh gosh, yes.
Wow.
We have a bunch here. Usually when we do TWOs
and it was made by me.
Yep, Art. I was running Art through this. So usually when we have areas of interest for the TWOs, it's usually just when we do it on the US side, we usually just do the Atlantic, the Gulf, the Caribbean.
Yeah.
But because of Hilary being a threat to the West Coast, we had to include the East Pac in here. So obviously, we have Hilary is currently a Category 4. The NHC has it at 130 miles an hour, and so do we. Our latest fix has it at 130 miles an hour with 948 pressure. There's also another area of it, another area right down here, which is 30% chance of formation. That's within the 7-day period, though. I think it's within 5 days now. I think they go 0.5 or 0.7 now. I don't exactly know. And moving into the Atlantic has woken up with. They do 7? Okay, so it's 0.7. Thank you. The Atlantic has woken up with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 areas of interest, 2 that are marked as invests. So we're going to go from left to right. So currently, this area that is going to move into the Western Gulf is currently located in the Central Bahamas. And this has a 50% chance of formation. Once this is up from earlier, which I believe earlier was only 30 or 40%. This is now up to 50% chance as it moves into the Western Gulf of formation within the next 7 days. There is an area of interest that we have here just east of the Lesser Antilles that has the entire Eastern Caribbean here surrounded basically in it, which includes Hispaniola and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, as well as the Turks and Caicos. This has a 30% chance of formation within the next 7 days, and the only reason it's a 30% chance compared to the counterparts of the interest in that area that's going to move into the Gulf is because early next week there's going to be an area of upper level winds that moves into the area, which is going to hamper development. So if this wants to develop, it's going to have to do it within this weekend, and probably I'd say Monday, Tuesday being a cutoff. And that's going to be the same thing with 99L, which is marked as an invest. It currently has 40% chance of development in the next 7 days. It has a smaller area of development, and it's that same thing that could kill off this 30% area is because the upper level winds are going to move into that area and it's going to hamper development. Currently, 99L is 25 miles an hour with a pressure of 1,009 millibars, 40% chance of formation. And the one where it is most likely going to develop, and it already looks like it's a depression or a storm, but it's not officially because it's an exposed low-level circulation with storms around it, is 98L. That is 70% chance of formation in the next 7 days. I'm pretty sure the odds are 60% within the next 2 or 3 days, 70% in the next 7 days, so that is going to be the one that we're going to watch out there in the MDR. That's the third one in the MDR. That one is expected to become a depression or storm this weekend. It's currently 30 miles with a pressure of 1,009 millibars. And that might be the next name that we get on the Atlantic naming list is going to be 98L, and we might see that area in the Gulf could possibly become something as well. So it
those
looks
are all
like
NHC
alongside
numbers, right?
Hilary. Yes, these are all NHC numbers that we have. These are all NHC numbers on the development odds. I just used
Interesting.
our fixes for the millibars and the wind speed.
All right. Well,
So
Sorry
yeah,
to interrupt, but
this
I'm
is all
now going to
NHC.
leave the voice chat now.
Okay.
I hope everybody has a great night.
yes.
Goodbye.
We hope everyone does as well.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's our first hour of coverage done, and it occurred to me halfway through our hour that we had such a difficult start to tonight's stream because we had more issues and we were running up right to the wire. They actually made a packaged tropical weather bulletin beforehand. So let's go on to that and take a look at what else is going on around the world and what the tropical weather bulletin for August the 19th looks like from my end here. Let's have a look at this. So, Hilary, a strong wind and major flooding concern. So now it's a tropical weather bulletin.
Wasn't it?
It's a blooper reel, yes. They're telling me it's a blooper reel in the back. For August the 19th. But it's a good way to start an hour, and that's what we've got right now. Hilary, ex-Fernanda, and ex-Greg still traceable, and also ex-Lan. Code orange still at this point, with 39 storms so far. Now, contrary to the NHC, what we saw there for the Atlantic, I've put out 5 areas of interest on day 80 of Atlantic hurricane season. 4 low chances and 1 high chance. That's 70% that's in the Eastern Atlantic. Certainly has our eye. And also that potential development in the Gulf of Mexico I think is also going to do well. A 10% area of interest as well in the Eastern Pacific off the coast of Costa Rica later on. And of course Hilary, a category 4 and very powerful as we've been talking about this whole hour, moving towards the Baja California peninsula. And as you've also seen, significant flooding issues already starting to occur. Ex-Lan off the coast of Kamchatka now, moving off out to the northern seas, and an area of interest still with 10% chance in the Western Pacific. Moving over to the Indian Ocean, not much going on here right now, but generally a few areas of heavy rain over the central spine of India and also in parts of Myanmar towards the Himalayas. A quick look at Hilary then, a category 4 right now, and this was as of earlier. It was 527 kilometers from I think that's supposed to say Cabo San Lucas, not Manzanillo. 640 from La Paz, 1622 from Tijuana, 1648 from San Diego, and 1822 from Los Angeles. Those distances will have fallen slightly. And all of those watches and warnings that are still in effect, of course, and those will continue to spread northwestwards. Tropical storm watches extending as far north as Point Mugu, and that was the tropical weather bulletin with the music cutting out randomly, as of course we'd expect that. So there's a wide shot of the Atlantic right now as well, and that might interest people. And you can see all of those areas of interest and a few of them with some rotation right now. So any Atlantic fans in our chat right now or in our team here, now's the chance to really go off on what your thoughts are about all of this at the moment.
Okay, well, I didn't realize that there was going to be a 5th area of interest. If I knew that, I would have
sorry about
had
that.
Art thrown that in there. But yeah, well, it makes sense that something would be coming off of Africa and into the MDR. It is that time of the year. But yeah, I do agree with both the NHC and with what we're saying. That one that already looks like it's a tropical depression. It's just an
Looks
open
good.
low-level circulation. it does look good. It just needs to get those thunderstorm bands to wrap around it, and we'll probably see that as a tropical depression or a tropical storm over the next couple of days. But I do think 98L will be the next one to receive a a name off the naming list. 99L, thankfully, it looks like it's not going to be the big hurricane that all the models were hinting at earlier, but it still could become something. It's going to have to really, it's really going to have to get its act together over the next couple of days before those upper level winds get in there and hamper it. And same with that 30% area in there to the to the west, of 98L. But I do think that the one there in the Gulf of Mexico, what will go into the Gulf of Mexico, it's currently a tropical wave going through the Bahamas. That is the one that I think that we do need to keep an eye on as well. And as we've really seen over the last few years, storms that get into the Gulf of Mexico that start off as waves, and they like to take their time, but then they'll they like to
Jonesy.
that's going on the blooper reel.
Jonesy.
Come on,
Come
man.
on,
You're better
Jonesy.
than
Come
that.
on. Come on, watch your language, Jonesy.
Watch your language, buddy.
That's
Yeah,
that's
come
what
on,
I
watch your
learned.
language,
For
buddy.
10 minutes
That-
straight.
No, we're derailing.
Well,
No.
that's going on the blooper reel.
That's going on
the
the blue-
that's going on the
Excellent.
mother of all blooper reels.
That's
Slightly.
going on the blooper. That's going on the blooper. Hey, sorry, it
Excellent.
slipped out.
Yeah,
It slipped
it's
out.
okay.
Let's get back to the professional standards.
Well, I can do
So
that.
that one-
This is, of course, the Atlantic. Those three. I'd also like to point out that we will have models later on this hour around the world, all the way out to Scilly Range. So I'm sure everyone will be happy to see all that. But in the meantime,
Yeah.
that's the Atlantic sorted.
I,
Look at the
yeah,
wide
so-
shot of the Eastern Pacific. Well, you can't actually. It's broken. Why is that broken? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. As I was saying, that those storms, they like to take their time, and then once they get close to the shoreline, they become a storm, and they'll rapidly intensify and become like a high-end tropical storm, low-end hurricane as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, a big example of that being, what was that storm in 2020? Hannah, I believe it was. Hannah was an example of what a storm that started off as a tropical wave, got
yes.
into the Gulf, took time, and then became became a tropical storm, and became a big hurricane.
Okay, here we are. Here's the Eastern
into
Pacific
coastal land.
right now. Just want to move us on. There's a wide shot, of course, of Hilary right now, starting to move further towards the north that you can clearly see on that imagery. And to the east of all of that, there's a little bit of rotation going on. There's really nothing to talk about, though. But eventually you will see some stuff, stormy conditions really start to pop up over Costa Rica mainly. But those areas could get a lot of rain there in the next 7-day period as well.
Yeah, so definitely that area of interest. I thought it actually disappeared from the NHC earlier. I thought they dropped it. So they did not. And as I said, it's at 30%. I think 30% might have been a little bit generous. It might honestly be 10, 20%. So I might agree with you.
At the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. So I might agree with you there, Nathan, on a 10% there for that. But definitely the main feature is Hilary. Storms that usually go up the California current right like this, they usually weaken. But obviously it's an El Nino year. It has the waters being a little bit warmer. And what I've been noticing with these tracks is they've been moving a little more and more west. And if it keeps moving west, we could see the first tropical storm landfall in California in
About
A
80
long
years.
time.
4 years.
Well,
Last time it happened was back in 1939. So that was
Yeah.
the last time that it happened. Was a tropical storm landfall in the state of California. This is probably not going to be a hurricane by the time it gets to California.
No.
But for those that
Very unlikely.
those that are very unlikely, for those that are wondering, the one and only time the West Coast has ever seen a hurricane landfall was back in the late 1850s, I believe it was 1858 or 1859, where a 75-mile-an-hour Category 1 made landfall in San Diego. But we do not expect that out of Hilary. The tropical storm that made landfall 84 years ago was made landfall in Long Beach. So
But
if the cone keeps
1858.
moving it more westward, we'll see if we might get a
Right.
California landfall.
Well, you're saying this about the cone moving more westward, but on the intermediate advisory here, where they do a position update but use the old cone from 3 hours ago, it's quite clear that the storm has ended up a little bit east of their last forecast from 6
Yeah.
p.m. So that could be a little bit of a fight back, as it were,
Be
towards
fighting back, yeah.
more easterly.
It might moving a bit more east. I mean, we've seen a lot over the last few years where storms start that west trend and it looks like it's going to go west, but then it fights back east. Ida's a perfect example of that. Back in 2021, it was looking like Ida was going to go west, and then it moved east, and then Ian last year, it was looking like Ian was going to, and all the models on Ian were saying that it was going to stay west. It was going to stay west. It was going to go right into Tampa Bay, and it was going to be the worst case scenario. And then it moved, and then the cone moved, and the storm moved east, and it went into Fort Myers. So this is something that we've really noticed over the last couple of years, that these storms, they start to move west. They start off moving west, but then they end up moving east right before. Right beforehand. We'll see if Hilary ends up following that trend.
I'd like to thank DB for supporting our channel and becoming a Category 1 Ultimate fan. Nice to have you on board. There was another question earlier as well. Will Hilary have a shot at Category 5? You can never be too sure in this area. Waters are still warm. The satellite presentation is looking better, but I would still say with a fair amount of confidence that it's going to be a no.
yeah,
It's most likely going
Hilary
to be a
likely
no.
reached its peak. Hilary likely reached its peak intensity just a bit ago when it had its first.
But hey, if it was the
chance
size of if it was the size of Dora, it might have had a shot.
Yeah, but of
Yeah,
course Hilary decided.
Dora
Of
was
course,
so
Hilary
small.
decided to pull a typhoon tip with this one and be a very big storm. I'm exaggerating there, of course, but
Typhoon Tip was even the double size of Hilary.
I
Or
know
even-
I'm joking, but
Slightly.
still, it is a big storm even for East
Yeah.
Pacific standards.
So this is basically, as we go into the oceanic heat content map, this was the area really where Hilary it already got.
I haven't
its
got
peak.
that. Let me just go and get that. Oceanic heat
So-
content map. Of course, we show those on the tropical weather bulletins as well. Let's go and get this quickly before you talk about it. There are a few decent spots, but not so much where the storm is.
So where the storm was and where it got to its 145, nearly 150-mile peak, there was a little pocket there where it basically was able to rapidly intensify, but now that it's going to move more parallel to the Baja California coastline, that's where the oceanic heat content basically just falls off a cliff. So this has no shot at a Category 5 anymore. If it went up the Gulf of California, or if it was closer to mainland Mexico, I'd say, hey, maybe. But this is moving into an area where oceanic heat content is basically near zero, so its chances are long gone. If it wanted to be a Cat 5, it would have had to done it about 12 hours ago.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But speaking a bit about Hilary, actually, Actually, you can come back to me later. When we're done with with that. That is another one of the bloopers that we have. But you can come
Nah.
back to me later when I have all of the models and stuff for Hilary ready.
Oh,
But
we'll be showing models pretty soon. Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yes.
gonna
I'm
be
gonna
interesting.
retire here, and I'm gonna let the rest of the team that's been patiently waiting
All right.
while I've been getting my thoughts in there and all that, and talking about some of the stuff and explaining the graphics. So I'm gonna retire
Sure.
to let the rest of the team talk. So Farhanka, Fitz, Seek, I know all of you have thoughts, so I'm going to send the mic over to you guys.
Seek, tell us what you think on the latest on Hilary right now. A dangerous storm.
Yes, so like we've been mentioning over the past little while now, Hilary's a very dangerous tropical system, slowly making its approach at about 12 miles an hour, possibly towards the SoCal area near San Diego and Los Angeles. It's expected to make landfall in California at around the 12 a.m. mark on Monday. So we got a little while till it happens, but it is slowly creeping closer and closer. So if you're in the areas of San Diego or Los Angeles, or if you're under the moderate high risk flash flooding due to the what are likely going to be the feeder bands of Hilary, and then eventually the inner core of Hilary as it moves over the SoCal area, make sure you do get your preparations in place, as this hasn't happened in a extremely long time, since basically the 1930s was when the last time you guys had a tropical system directly impact California.
Yep. Hurricane Altony Braun, thanks very much for your support tonight. A question as well. Will Hilary be a high-end tropical storm later in the track? And how high are the cloud tops? Well, we've got minus 70s surrounding the eye right now. And if we just have a close-up of the National Hurricane Center cone again, wanted to show some wind speed probs, but I don't think we can. But you'll see there that there's it goes from hurricane strength on Sunday to tropical storm strength at midnight Monday morning, and it weakens to a tropical storm before reaching California. But we'll probably still have winds, I would say, maybe 60 miles per hour when it moves through the San Diego area. Floor's pretty much open for our team this hour, so feel free to go ahead with... Yeah, Farhan.
Well, I just want to mention here. I was about to mention for Jonesy come in and took up 30 minutes of our airtime. That I just want to mention that I find it quite a bit amusing when Patrick first mentioned of possible tornado threats of people in the chat expressing surprise over tornado threat, because what we have to keep in mind is that tornadoes are not a very common occurrence in California either.
No,
It's
they
a
are
bit more
not.
common than storms, but it is still not common. I recall there was like an EF1 earlier this year in like, what's that town called? Montebello or something like that. And in the videos uploaded about it on YouTube, they'll be like, there's tornadoes in California, what? But yeah, I just want to say that I found it quite a bit amusing, but also in the same, I want to mention that it is very much possible. It's rare, but it does happen. And this is a unique opportunity with Hilary coming in for both a tropical cyclone and tornado to be happening.
You are absolutely right, Farhan. And hello, everyone. I'm Patrick, back here. I'm Interim Acting Director of the United States team. Welcome you guys back. I am back here as well in the studio now, so I am now able to actually provide more thoughts on Hilary right now. So I'll go ahead and say a few brief things here. Firstly, I do want to point out that the satellite presentation on Hilary right now is improving considerably from what it was once earlier with that rapidly warming eye. I don't know currently what the status on that is right now, but I do want to point out here in terms of the rainfall threat that we are starting to see rain bands train northward in association with very powerful Hurricane Hilary. And I do want to point out here that every single flash flood warning, basically from the Riverside San Bernardino County line through La Paz County, Arizona, northward towards Las Vegas, is considerable tag warned. This is like increase in terms of coverage here over the next several hours here, over the next few days here, actually, as we're going to have more moisture shooting northward with Hilary. And I do want to point out here just basically what training thunderstorms is, or basically what training rain is in this case here. It's not really going to be as severe right now. However, the moisture is going to obviously induce thunderstorm development and this heavy rainfall threat. So if you're underneath a flash flood warning, especially if you are within the Mojave Valley, the Hoover Dam vicinity, especially if you are near the Colorado River, if you're located near any rivers, streams, creeks, and you're underneath flash flood warnings, you need to evacuate away from them and you need to get to higher ground immediately, especially if you are in the Las Vegas metro, as I do have to say that this event is going to be quite a rare and potentially an exceptionally dangerous event, given the fact that we have not seen an event like this in California and the Southwest United States. Also taking into account Tijuana and Baja California, of course, we haven't seen this quite an event in a very long time. I believe the last time that this certain event to this size and this in terms of talking rainfall totals has not happened, and I almost believe half a decade or half a century. So this has been a very long time that we've seen something like this materialize, and I do want to point out something that is going to. I think this is going to likely be a case here. If you guys know what flash flood emergencies is, well, if you guys don't, I will briefly point it out before I send it back over to the team. If you are underneath a flash flood emergency, I do need to stress, given the environment that is setting up for this heavy rainfall event, if you are underneath a flash flood emergency, and we will be updating you with this here, basically on our socials, US and Maine, retweeting and doing graphics and whatnot for that. But anyways, a flash flood emergency entails that catastrophic, life-threatening flash flooding is likely ongoing or expected to begin shortly. Flash flood emergency basically means a particularly dangerous situation. Seek higher ground at all costs, or you could be potentially putting yourself in extreme danger from the threats of life-threatening, catastrophic flash flooding. I do think we could potentially see multiple of them issued later down the line, given the fact that this event has already started and more rain is on the way. So flash flood emergency or any flash flood warning at all, basically given what's really setting up here. Higher ground, centralmost portion of your safe room structure. It doesn't have to be underground, because you do not want to be underground if you're underneath a flash flood warning. Only case you want to be underground is if you're underneath a flash flood warning and a tornado warning at the same time. But this is just a precaution to throw out there beforehand, as we've seen with these high-end moisture content / deep moisture in association with tropical cyclones and very heavy rainfall. Flash flood emergencies are a definite possibility if because more rain's going to keep on falling in these areas and will contribute to some very, very significant flash flooding, and that's basically what a flash flood emergency entails. So just make sure you guys are prepared. We'll be keeping you updated on this, especially the U.S. team and us here at Force 13. And this situation is basically evolving right now, and we're seeing impacts basically fire off as early as right now. There is also some severe activity down in far southeast Arizona near Tucson that is not really, I believe that also is not related to Hilary directly. It may be related to the far convection bands. I don't know for sure, but that is nothing we're going to keep. We're really not going to be keeping an eye on that. I would be definitely keeping a close eye on, firstly, the Baja California Peninsula. If you're on the Baja California Peninsula, you need to be making your preparations ready and to completion immediately, as this system is, I believe, likely to make its closest pass in 36 to 48 hours or shorter. Someone correct me on that.
Depends where. It could be within about 12 hours for the southern tip of Baja California.
We're talking more towards the United States. So that would be northern side of the peninsula, which would be around 24, 36 hours, give or take. But obviously, impacts are starting on Baja California, I expect. So before I throw it over to the team here real quick, just make sure you guys are preparing for the flash flooding and landslide threat, especially in the highest elevations. And I definitely will be keeping you updated here, and I will be looking into more information while the rest of the team, especially, I believe I will throw it over to Chris right now if he is ready to speak, as I do know that he currently is right now our lead hurricane commander on the U.S. team, the hurricane preparedness team, and I do think it is quite fitting to now welcome it in. Chris, what are your thoughts on the storm right now, and can you basically brief us on what's going on right now? If he's here with us.
Somewhere, might be having a little bit of a signal hiccup.
Maybe.
Yeah, I also do want to point out the latest flash flood. I do want to read out like the latest flash flood warning that was issued about 10 minutes ago. That is currently ongoing. It was
Hello.
just recently issued
Hello.
for Central Mohave
Hello.
County in northwestern Arizona, which this is our most recent one, and this does also have a considerable flash flood threat. So this is gonna be in Central Mohave County in northwestern Arizona, including areas east of Kingman. So in those areas need to be on high alert now for increasing flash flooding, and these areas are just going to continue to see more flash flooding throughout as we go into the weekend. So it's very crucial that you heed all watches and warnings that are in your area or are going to be potentially issued for your area over the next couple of days, and make sure you have a preparedness plan, a flash flooding preparedness plan with you to increase your chances of staying safe during this increasing flash flooding event. I do believe this could be as bad as, if not worse than, the atmospheric river events that we had in California and surrounding southwestern region earlier this year.
Chris, go ahead.
Actually, I believe that Chris was actually going to pass it over to me.
Yeah, I
okay.
was gonna let Corey go first, and I'll go.
Yeah. So, Nathan, do you mind if I share my screen
Of
real
course.
quick? Okay. I would just like to give a bit of an overview on the current warnings and watches that are for
we need that.
California. So, if you could just pull up my screen share real quick. So,
I know, I'm trying to get that.
it's okay. But as of now, for the National Weather Service in Los Angeles, we can see on this map that the counties of Ventura, Los Angeles, the southern portion of San Bernardino County, Riverside County, Orange County, and San Diego County are all under a tropical storm watch, with I believe this being San Luis Obispo County under a hurricane local statement, and I'm not sure which county this is. This could be Kern County, northern San Bernardino County, and these two counties up here being under a flood watch. So if you are in any of these counties, then you should definitely begin taking preparations. And I also have a map for the eastern portion of this of the affected areas. And so all of Los Angeles County, as well as the industrial areas of San Bernardino County, almost all of Riverside County, all of San Diego County, and Orange County, again, are all under a tropical storm watch, with Imperial County, far eastern Riverside County being under a, I believe, a wind advisory, and the rest of San Bernardino County being under a flood watch, as well as Baja Baja California Norte being under a hurricane warning. So if you are in any of these cities right here that is in the red, or rather salmon color, then you should definitely begin preparing, as this storm could definitely bear down on these areas and could deliver record-breaking amounts of rainfall. We saw what happened this December, which where we got record-breaking amounts of rainfall, which led to severe flooding, and we do not want a situation like this to happen again. However, it is seeming likely that something as bad, if not, I mean, and more likely worse than what happened this December and January happening with this situation right here. Keep in mind that flooding can be localized and more intense in certain areas than others on this map, so you should definitely check local weather stations on what the conditions will likely be when the remnants of Hilary proper bears down on this area. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for just giving
Yeah.
me the chance to talk about this.
No, important. Now, here is the timing of Hilary, according to the National Hurricane Center, just on that cone. Just to point this out again, into the northern part of Baja California on Sunday, and on Sunday night into the early hours of Monday, it will be sweeping into Southern California, and by noon on Monday, it will be up into Nevada. Chris, you're next, I think.
Yeah, I actually have the OSHA website up on what to do in a flash flood emergency, like kind of the preparedness stuff behind that. So if Nathan, if you wouldn't mind sharing my screen real quick.
Yeah, anyone can just pull them up and I can go ahead and show them.
I'm going to go ahead and kind of go from there. If you're located in an area that's susceptible to flooding, you should monitor NOAA weather radio or commercial radio or television stations. Information about flood watches and warnings. The box on the left finds the terms commonly used in and warnings. This box right here. If you receive information about the possibility of flash flooding, be prepared to move higher ground immediately. In all cases, you should be prepared to evacuate before water levels rise, potentially cut off evacuation routes. And then it kind of like for employers and everything. This is from the OSHA website, but over here it has the warning system, and then flood watch, flash flood watch, flood warning, flash flood warning. And then what you want to do is for everybody in a storm zone, you want to have a basic survival kit. And this is what you want to have in it. You want to have water. Oh, is my screen sharing now? Are we good?
Yeah, we're seeing everything.
All right, you want water, at least 1 gallon per person per days for several days, drinking and sanitation. Food, at least a several day supply of non-perishable stuff that won't go bad. Battery powered or hand crank radio and a NOAA weather radio with tone alert. Flashlight, first aid kit, extra batteries in case stuff runs out. Whistle to signal for help. A mask to help filter contaminated air. Plastic sheet and duct tape to shelter in place. Moist towelettes, garbage bags, and plastic ties for personal sanitation, wrench or pliers to turn off your utilities, manual can opener for your non-perishable foods, local maps, cell phone with chargers, and a backup battery. Some of the additional supplies you can bring are soap, any prescription medications you have, eyeglasses or contacts, infant formula, pet food if you bring your pets with you, cash. Most places don't take cash. If you have cash and they take it, they'll take it. Credit card. You want to have all your important documents with you. You want to make sure they are also in a waterproof container. Because, and I'm pretty sure everybody here can agree with me, documents that are not in waterproof containers are no good for anybody to use. sleeping bag or a warm blanket, complete change of clothing for everybody, matches, anything else that you may need. So that's kind of like what to do in a flash flood emergency plan, and that's what to have in a basic kit for emergencies. I'm going to go ahead and so kind of go over the whole category, the whole storm itself. As we've all been saying, California, especially this area, has never seen of this magnitude before. And the last time we really saw a storm like this was how long ago, Nathan, you said?
Well, I mean, that is an open question.
84 years.
That's the last tropical storm landfall in California. However, some storms have moved into California from the south overland, such as Tropical Storm Nora in 1997, and probably one or two others.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Patrick real quick, since he did have something important that he wanted to relay.
Yeah, Nathan, I do want to confirm right now that I have reason to believe, and I believe everybody will also fall in line with this as well. I believe I have enough reason to believe that Hilary is re-intensifying right now. I have just received a list of the latest estimation fixes from different agencies, and I can definitely say that II is warm, very warm, and continuing to warm right now, and the satellite appearance is improving quite drastically. It is definitely looking better than that it was before, or actually before the eyewall replacement cycles occurred. So I do want to read this off here real quick. The eye temperature as of this moment, I believe, has passed 14.5 degrees Celsius in the positives, with around 49 WMG pixels, which is likely indicative of an intensifying storm. CIMS DPRT is currently going 113 knots, 947 millibars. CIMS DVTO is currently fixing 125 knots, actually 124 knots, basically round up to around 100, around down to like 120 knots, 931 millibars. And CIMS AIDT is running 114 knots. They don't have an estimated pressure as of right now, but both CIMS, DPRT, and DVTO are running with 947 and 931 respectively. Blending this data in, and also taking into account the satellite appearance as well as presentation, I personally think that it has intensified, or is right now intensifying, and I personally believe it is right around 120 knots as of this given point.
So two big points about this right now. One, I'd like to see it maintain a little longer, but it is getting better. I'm pretty sure of that. And two, I believe recon is on the way, are they?
I believe. Let me check tropical tidbits here real quick, Nathan.
And
also, sorry.
They would obviously get an even clearer indication of whatever might be happening.
Yep.
Now, just before we continue, James Gentry, I'd like to thank you for your support this evening, says, I don't think it's been said enough how badly this could affect the Interstate 10 and 8. Some spots are easily floodable death traps. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I can kind of comment on that as someone who lives in an area that is usually a hurricane magnet. I'll give an example. When Jersey got hit by Sandy, we had majority of the highways flooded, and there were a lot of people who lost their lives on those highways because they were trying to drive away. They were trying to drive on the highway to get away, and they got caught on the highway, and the floodwaters took them. That's why interstates and highways are not the really safest place to be during a hurricane or a major hurricane. We saw this during, well, Sandy technically wasn't a major hurricane, but we saw this during Sandy. My area and Patrick's area saw this during Sandy, and Patrick can agree. The amount of highways that were flooded during Sandy was insane.
Yeah, so definitely you do not want to be out on the roads in any point, especially when you're dealing with flash flooding. Quickly jumping back to what I was saying earlier, Nathan, before I throw it back over to anybody else here. I definitely do think that if this does maintain up to the 0-3 advisory, which we'll have to see, I definitely think that this does support at least 120 knots. I know the public server has also been talking about it as well, and I've been also taking a look at things my own self. And I definitely think it is re-intensifying. I don't know if we can also maybe take a look at the sea surface temperatures right now, see how they're doing, because I don't know if this is in peak SSTs right now.
They're around
But
28 to 29 degrees.
that is enough to cause an intensifying storm, and also given the state of Hilary right now. So I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I do expect NHC to potentially go higher than 130 in their next advisory, given the latest observational trends as well as latest fixes from different agencies. We'll have to see what Dvorak fixes for their actual own or ADT, BT, see what they fix for 03Z. But I definitely think that Hilary is intensifying right now, based off of the latest observational satellite, as well as
All right.
what do you want to call it? Yeah, but though basically just satellite and infrared imagery scans, as well as taking into account also those information I provide you about the fixes from different estimation points.
Sure.
So yeah, this is definitely an intensifying storm right now. I don't think it's intensifying. It's definitely not intensifying at a very quick pace. It is.
No.
Yeah, it has already gone under a period of explosive intensification. Basically, I know Ched pointed this out in one of his updates, that this went from a 50-mile-per-hour storm all the way up to a Category 3 and now a Category 4 in less than a span of 2 days. So this has been quite a remarkable period of intensification for this very powerful storm. And I do think we have to keep in mind here that Hilary does have a chance, and likely is right now, re-intensifying, although conditions will be dropping off in favorability, given sea surface temperatures are just going to plummet down to the lower 20s to upper teens once you move into the more inland California peninsula. So
It's still got quite a few hours. I just want to know what Cesar thinks about the storm right now. Do you think it's strengthening?
Well, definitely looks better, but still, I want to wait to see more imagery of Hillary on the next hours to properly say that it's actually intensifying. Could be deceiving. So I mean, it's still looking great. So could be a possibility, but I'm still not gambling that it's intensifying again.
Some questions. Redneck Lover 22 says, how much rain would be required for Las Vegas to have catastrophic flooding?
I will take this here real quick, briefly. Nathan, I don't know if you can pull up my screen. I will share something here real quick. I'm going to be sharing the WPC risks here, especially day 3. Let me pull this up real fast. So basically, right now, what you're currently seeing on your screen is the day 3 excessive rainfall outlook here from the Weather Prediction Center in College Park, Maryland.
Just wait for me a little bit. I'm trying to get it up. It's gonna take a quick minute.
So what I'm going to show here, basically, or actually, I'll pull this up real quick. This is going to be a WPC forecast analysis. This is basically the forecasted precipitation within, I'll say 72 hours here, and you can just see it's clear as day. Right in this area here, where you see the lighter yellows and the browns and whatnot. This particularly means at this point, this basically means right here, if you are within this area, you are likely to see 6 to 8 inches of rain. Localized amounts, especially in the highest elevations, I could see go past 10 inches. Potentially, a foot of rain could definitely fall across portions of California. And I do want to point out here that given the moisture, which I'll actually also go to a model run here real quick. I'll just pull up GFS, and we'll actually take a look at the dew point analysis here. You can actually see in just a second what I'm talking about right now. That is a sounding. I do not want to do that. Let me try to get this in motion here. As you can see, you can just see all of this moisture right here. All of this moisture basically is surging northward into the California area. You just basically see it is a little bit cut off by the bottom bar, but you can definitely see how moisture is continuing to move northward. It's fine, Nathan, but you can just see how all this moisture is basically onsetting right over here in California. This is all in association with Hilary. Right here is all the monsoonal and tropical moisture that's onsetting with Hilary. So this actually means that here that given the forecasted rainfall, it will actually not take a lot to cause life-threatening, potentially catastrophic flash flooding, given the fact that the air mass is actually very saturated with the high moisture. And basically what that means is that any rain that does fall will have the capability of causing excessive runoff, especially areas near streams, creeks, rivers. I do want to point out here that that model is a more long-range model. However, GFS can be you really don't want to use shorter range models like the HRRR NAM 3 kilometer for hurricanes. It's very well known that you should not be using those models. But basically, any amount of rain that does fall in the California, pretty much across the interior southwest United States and the northern Baja California peninsula, any rain that does fall in these areas, given the high content of monsoonal and tropical moisture, it doesn't matter if it's 2 inches or 3 inches of rainfall. Any sort of rainfall will cause significant to life-threatening flash flooding, given the fact that the air mass is already saturated, which will cause more intense rainfall rates as well as excessive runoff from heavy rainfall, which will cause those mudslides, landslides, as well as significant flash, arroyo, urban, and small streams flooding, which also could be catastrophic in nature. So I did want to
By
point
the
out
way,
there.
that must be a strong high pressure over the central US.
Yes. So quickly, this high pressure here is going to be what's responsible for a intense heat wave that is going to stretch across the Midwest United States and central United States. Basically, anywhere west of the Rockies is going to see a lot of rain and moisture onset from Hilary, as well as other systems there. And anywhere in the central U.S. is basically going to see very hot temperatures, any pretty concerning heat wave. But quickly, before I throw it back over to anybody else here on the team, because I do know I want to get everybody else's thoughts in here before we head up the air. I want to point out again, day 3 excessive rainfall risk here, 2 high-risk zones, one across the far southern Imperial Valley, stretching basically, this is not including portions of the Mojave Valley, Lake Havasu City. This includes Lake Havasu City, Los Angeles, and the moderate risk, this red shaded color. However, these 2 particular high-risk zones do actually include far eastern portions of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. This also includes portions of Death Valley. So if you are within these red and pink zones here, you need to be keeping a very close eye out for this flash flooding threat, as this is going to eventually evolve over the next several days. And as you can see with the day 2, it is still a moderate risk across far southeastern California and basically just to southwest of the Mojave Valley into the Imperial Valley. And then day 3 obviously is the 2 individual high risks. 4 out of 4, basically equating to a 5 out of 5 high risk, which is usually correlated with the severe weather side of things, flash flooding side of things. So this is an extremely dangerous, life-threatening situation which could evolve. You need to be focusing on the rain, exactly. Not Mr. Popular 009 points out here. Do not focus on the strength when Hilary is going to go through California. Focus on the rain. That is exactly a very good point to point out here. These conditions are unusual for this part of the country, especially in the western U.S. and this is going to be quite a event for the Southwest United States. Thank you, Nathan.
All right, I think it's time to look at the models. Or should I say the GFS, at least, for this whole period out to 16 days. So let's see what it picks up on. It starts off with, of course, all of these little areas in the Atlantic. We've got one that's going to be moving that way. We've got two, one that's currently active going that way. Three, much larger one that people have pointed out. Four currently over near Cuba, moving towards the Gulf, and potentially five which will emerge near here, or maybe a bit further north actually, and go that way. Wow, let's see what happens to them all. Here it comes. So you can see that's a tropical storm out of that eastern system, the highest chance. The other ones struggle, but look at that there, that's possibly another tropical storm, at least a brief one. The first one dies off quite quickly, or at least weakens, and then later on there you can see the Gulf of Mexico, the 22nd of August there. That's only 3 days away, and then a landfall right on the border between the US and Mexico. Another one. Could you imagine that? If Hilary makes landfall near the border with US and Mexico on one side, and then another storm does it on the other side, just a couple of days later, that's quite something. And then towards the later period, let's go back a bit. There's that fifth system moving through Cape Verde and then developing into a tropical storm into the longer range. Where does that one come from? That's the one on the left hand side, the one that's about to move through the western. It's quite dizzying, isn't it? Moves just through Puerto Rico sort of, and then it develops and starts to move northeastwards, a tiny little thing, and then another system forms. Actually no, it's a second iteration of that tropical storm that is currently the 70% system, getting a second lease of life up there in the subtropical zones toward the extratropical zone. Fascinating. And then the one that's, I mean, this is just ridiculous. The one that was in the Caribbean is now up there as well. This is what might have been, I'm sure, a hurricane, no less, just before it turns post-tropical there. And then what else is going on? We've got this other system, the one that's a long tracking one, the one that emerges off Africa in the future. And in the long range, well, it's moving through the Greater Antilles as a hurricane there, and then moves on and strengthening again in the Gulf of Mexico right at the end of that run, leaves everyone on a cliffhanger. But that is a very long way out, so I wouldn't put much stock into that, of course, just yet. Goodness me, loads and loads of stuff going on in the Atlantic. That was balmy. And another storm there at the end as well. Another one starting to move through. So, Eastern Pacific. Go ahead.
One thing I want you to keep in mind about the North Atlantic here is, while, yes, we are heading into a much more active period for storms, for tropical storms, keep in mind that these don't mean that all these events here don't mean we're going to have a bunch of storms coming up. You could see 1 to 2, but I do want to point out that if you see something like that in the Atlantic Ocean, which is definitely more typical of this time, that does increase the chance that any number of storms, most likely 1 or 2, definitely increases the chance that a storm is going to form, depending on where it's. But we really don't know where that storm is going to be. But nonetheless, if you have that many areas of interest and invest, it doesn't mean they're all going to form, but it does mean that there is a much higher probability that you're going to be getting a tropical storm or even a hurricane out here in the Atlantic. So
let's watch Hilary closely here, starting to move off towards the northwest, of course, and there it is on this latest GFS run. There's a hurricane, almost a landfall, not quite, still category 1 by that point. That is tomorrow at local time. That is 6 a.m. 6 a.m. tomorrow there. That's the closest to land. And then continuing northwards, where is the landfall exactly? probably near Ensenada there. Ooh, it's a tough one. I'm not sure exactly where that landfall is. It is around there, I think. And then
It's about Ensenada, yeah,
it pulls inland.
around.
And after it moves inland, look at the large area of Nevada that has tropical storm force winds still. And off the western coast of California as well, enhanced winds there, not fully to do with the storm. And then it dies off quite quickly after that. So, what's behind Hilary? And actually, no, just before we do that, let's see if we can get a sample of the strongest wind that might occur in Southern California here. Let's just go back towards the full part. They're not very strong. Let's just get a sample here. Oh, it's gone. Well, that was helpful. Somewhere around here. So there it is, indicating 57, 55 mile per hour winds. So I think 60 mile per hour winds will probably be seen somewhere in Southern California and maybe even into Nevada there. Curious. What happens behind it then? We've been watching for this potential Eastern Pacific system that forms very low down there, not far from Costa Rica. There it is. That's around the 22nd of August once again, so still not that far out. And then a very small compact system that makes landfall there along the border between Costa Rica and Nicaragua. Very unusual for this time of year. And then also after that in the Eastern Pacific, anything? Oh yes, there's a new hurricane forming around the 27th, 28th, a little bit further out, and becomes, wow, look at that, a very powerful one, moving west-northwest out to sea. Over towards the Central Pacific, you can clearly see the remnants of Greg and Fernanda, and they continue along. Fernanda could even enhance some winds there in Hawaii, and then nothing else. Central Pacific has a break. Western Pacific looks to be struggling into the future here. There is a little system there that might become a brief tropical storm. Moves in towards Japan. There it is, Shikoku. And then behind that, lower latitude formations possibly. But really, that's struggling. This little system here that forms, that must be very close to the international date line. Maybe not, actually. I think that's about 160 degrees east. And shooting off there near the coast of Japan. South China Sea tries to get something developed. A very large system. This is into the later period now. 30th of August. It's quite far out. And there they are. Oh dear, what happened there? Oh, 2 typhoons forming and existing. That's crazy. They're so close together. I'm not sure about that. But that is in the super long range. Indian Ocean, anything there? No, not really. There is something that tries to develop very broad, but not really there. So just before we finish, rainfall expectations for the whole area will go straight to the 168 hour mark. Let me try and find that. So next 7 days, this is what we're expecting rainfall wise. And to be honest, these forecast amounts have decreased a little. Cabo San Lucas area there getting to 3.5 inches. That's nearly 100 millimeters. Look inland though, in mainland Mexico. I'm trying to remember what that province is over there. Is that Sinaloa or Nayarit? Over 150 millimeters of rain along that region. Northern Baja California getting up above 6 inches, and 1 or 2 spots there even in the Las Vegas area. Look at that. Storm maximum total possibly in the Las Vegas region, getting up to 7 inches, which is nearly 200 millimeters, and east of Los Angeles also getting up towards 6 inches. To the north as well, maybe 5 inches. LA itself probably getting to 2, similar for San Diego. Phoenix, Arizona getting nearly 1 inch, and a few spots south of there getting up to 2 inches as well. And that's already unfolding with this current event, with some storm cells already occurring in that zone. Wow, that was a lot to cover there, but very interesting. Not much left of our team at this point. We're almost finishing up. Just any final thoughts from the folks who are left right now before I wrap things up?
I do want to add at this point, yeah. So anyone who is in Southern California going down to northern Baja California, even though you have, we do understand that this is an unusual event, but we do really this is why we are. This is why we urge you that you to. For those of you who aren't very familiar with tropical storms, is crucial that you follow any official advice, any any advice from officials, any advice from the National Weather Service. You want to make sure you have something like a battery-powered radio or notifications of your phone to alert you to any flash flood warnings, tropical storm watches and warnings, as these are most likely, as that tropical storm watch up in Southern California along the west coast is likely going to transition to a tropical storm warning, and it is important that you take all necessary precautions. Have a tropical have a flooding evacuation plan, have a flooding action plan. And I do encourage you to do, for those who are in Southern California right now, to do some research on tropical storms and how you can prepare. The Ready, you do have the NHC, you have ready.gov, where you can access information on how to prepare for tropical storms and hurricanes. So you absolutely want to make sure that you are preparing, that you are taking preparations to prepare not just yourself, but also your family, also your property. So it's absolutely crucial that you are in this, that you are staying safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely will agree with that. Make sure you stay safe. You have your weather preparation plans and also your kits ready to go in case you do have to, evacuate and whatnot. And just make sure that everybody stays safe, whether you're on the West Coast, whether you're in the Gulf, whether you could be affected by any system in the wide world of tropics over the next
That's
few days.
Thanks, Jonesy. We are out of time, I'm afraid, so I'll have to say goodbye to our team, and let's take a look at some of the other stuff we're up to. We've got the Force 13 Eastern Tour on the way. Athens, Singapore, Cebu, and Hong Kong. If you want to drop by, let us know on email or through our social media platforms. Contact at force13.com. You can also chat on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13, for tropical weather and general weather chat. Jonesy, you're supposed to be off the air. He's trying to talk to me. You're done now. It's all right. Here's on this day then, August 19th, 2015. We had a Category 5 at Sani in the Western Pacific, very powerful typhoon. Ngoni was a Category 4 at the same time near the Philippines. We also had Tropical Storm Danny, which had just formed in the Atlantic, would eventually become a surprise Category 3, and 11E had just died off in the Eastern Pacific without managing to get a name. On this day, 8 years ago. Back to today then, and here it is, code orange of course. The next name on the list is Emily in the Atlantic. In the Eastern Pacific it's Irwin, and in the Central Pacific, everyone, it's Hone!
Hone!
Still.
It's never gonna form at this point.
Yep. In the Western Pacific, next name is Saola, and I will always call it that. In the North Indian Ocean, it's Tej. 39 storms so far this year around the world. Thanks to my team for taking part, and for you for watching. We hope you have found it useful. Until next time, that's it from here. Subscribe to the channel for more updates, and we're on social media as well. Take a look at what we've got. But from us here, we'll see you again soon. We're now going to the automated stream.